Before you pour yourself another glass, allow me to ask you a serious question. Are you actually drinking wine? Or are you sipping on a laboratory-engineered mixture designed to taste like it? If you're over 35, your body doesn't forgive chemical shortcuts anymore. You know the signs, the headaches, that weirdly sweet aftertaste, the rough feeling the next morning after just one glass. What if I told you that some of the bottles on the shelves at Walmart and Trader Joe's contain more doctored water and industrial additives than the true character of grapes? And here's the part that should really concern you. A genuine, natural bottle of wine often costs exactly the same amount. Today, I'm going to expose 6 wines that are merely imposters and 2 that are actually made from grapes, not a chemistry set. One of the real ones costs just around $6. After this, you will never look at the wine selection in a discount store the same way again. Let's start with number 5. A bottle labeled Tuscan Rosso sits on a low shelf, wrapped in rustic Italian charm and promising the Tuscan sun in every sip. Its aged-looking label, complete with vintage typography, screams authenticity before you even check the price. For only about $5, it seems like the deal of a century. In reality, you're getting an industrial fraud concealed behind a clever name. The bottle says wine right on the front, but American regulations tell a completely different story. Flip the bottle over and read the fine print. Aromatized wine-based beverage. That's right, a flavored beverage based on wine. This is not real wine. This drink is created from a small amount of wine that has been blended with water, sugar, and flavorings meant to imitate the taste of actual grapes. The ingredients list reveals the whole scam. Water is listed before grape concentrate, and high fructose corn syrup is the third ingredient. Natural flavor and caramel color E150A complete this chemical cocktail, a detail the manufacturer hopes you'll never notice. This product contains only about 30% real wine. The rest is just sweetened tap water, formulated to mask how diluted it is. Current regulations allow this junk to be sold right on the wine shelf, as long as the label discloses the truth in tiny print that most shoppers will never read. The aroma is an immediate giveaway, an artificial berry sweetness, reminiscent of a cheap juice box. On the palate, you're hit with a cloying sweetness that coats your tongue and then disappears before you can recognize a single grape variety. This isn't Tuscan terroir. This isn't wine. It's grape-flavored sugar water with just enough alcohol to require an age restriction. For $5, you are buying packaging and lies. Real wine made from actual grapes costs at least $10. That 400% price difference should tell you everything. Next, the Bordeaux Collection Rosé takes up prime real estate on the shelf, with its deep burgundy bottle and gold accents suggesting a French sophistication worth showing off. The drawing of a chateau and the elegant script on the label promise left bank elegance without the left bank price tag. For around $8, this bottle presents itself as a smart alternative to the $15 imports it's sitting next to. What actually ends up in your glass is a sulfite bomb, engineered to survive an apocalyptic shelf life. The technical reality hits hard. This wine contains over 200 milligrams of sulfur dioxide per liter. Now that's not strictly illegal. U.S. regulations can permit up to 350 milligrams per liter for certain wines, while a typical red might have around 150. The Bordeaux collection, however, pushes right up to the absolute maximum allowable limits for its category. Because the grapes used are of such poor quality and the production process is so rushed, the sulfites have to perform 3 different jobs. They prevent oxidation, kill off wild yeasts, and mask the flaws of fruit that never should have been bottled in the first place. Sommeliers all across the country are sounding the alarm about this specific bottle. Online forums are flooded with complaints describing instant headaches, a crushing pressure behind the eyes, and a wave of nausea that hits before you've even finished your second glass. This isn't just a sensitivity to alcohol. This is your body actively rejecting a chemical overload. Here's what the supermarket doesn't advertise. Wine shouldn't need pharmaceutical-grade preservatives just to be drinkable. High-quality fruit, when fermented properly, develops its own natural stability. This bottle needs a chemical suit of armor because everything underneath is falling apart. The nose is hit with a sharp chemical burn long before any fruit aroma can emerge. On the palate, there's a watery raspberry sweetness, that's desperately fighting against a metallic, bitter aftertaste. But it's the finish where the headache truly begins. That throbbing in your temples is no accident. It's your liver working overtime to process the sulfites while your brain is begging for mercy. For $8, you're buying a bottle of future regret. A real, well-crafted Bordeaux will cost you at least $15 to $20 and contains somewhere between 60 and 80 milligrams of sulfites per liter. That's the difference between wine and chemistry. Number 3, Crestwood Estates Premium White. It promises a dry sophistication in a tall, elegant bottle with a minimalist design that just whispers class. The frosted glass and simple label suggest a certain restraint and quality, perfectly in line with contemporary American tastes. For about $7, it presents itself as an intelligent choice for dinner parties and quiet evenings in. The label clearly states, Crestwood Dry White, but the liquid inside laughs at that claim, drowning your palate in sugar. Here is the deception, hidden in plain sight. Federal wine regulations have loopholes that can allow for up to 9 grams of residual sugar per liter in wine still labeled as dry. This gray area exists to account for natural variations in grapes and the realities of fermentation, but producers exploit it mercilessly. This particular bottle clocks in at a whopping 8.5 grams per liter. While technically legal, it's practically dishonest. Put it side by side with a truly dry muscadet that has maybe 4 grams per liter, and the difference is staggering. This wine tastes like a dessert while pretending it's meant for your main course. On the nose, you get an artificial pear sweetness that's reminiscent of a canned fruit cocktail, not a vineyard. The palate is met with a syrupy texture that coats your mouth and refuses to leave. That crisp, clean acidity that's supposed to balance a dry white wine and make your mouth water for another sip, it never shows up. Instead, you get a cloying sweetness, a flavor profile engineered to appeal to American palates that have been conditioned by decades of sugary soft drinks and sweet tea. The lie becomes painfully obvious on the finish. A truly dry wine leaves your palate clean, refreshed, and ready for food. This one leaves behind a sticky film and an urgent need to go brush your teeth. So why does this stuff even exist? Because sweet sells. Market research consistently shows that American consumers buy significantly more semi-sweet wines than they do bone-dry ones. So, producers slap a dry label on a sweet wine, betting you'll never do a side-by-side comparison. They call it crisp and refreshing, while loading it with the maximum amount of residual sugar the law allows. Your palate knows the truth, even if the label is lying. For around $6, you deserve real dryness. A genuinely dry Sauvignon Blanc is available for the same price, just 2 shelves over. This bottle is counting on you never finding it. Number 2, European Union red wine. The label lists no grape varietals, no vintage, and no specific region beyond the vague, legally required minimum. This plain, almost bureaucratic label design signals nothing but compliance with the lowest possible standards. For just under $5, this bottle exists in a kind of regulatory limbo, a place where transparency goes to die. The back label reveals a masterclass in purposeful ambiguity. A wine of the European Union, produced from grapes grown in member states, bottled in the USA. The phrase wine of the European Union is an industry confession, an admission that this liquid has no pride of origin. Real winemakers proudly declare their terroir. They name their grape varietals. They celebrate their vineyards. This bottle hides everything, because revealing the truth would shatter the entire illusion. Here's what that ambiguity is hiding. It's the cheapest bulk grapes from Spain, Italy, and Romania, all thrown together to minimize the cost per gallon. They're machine harvested from industrial-scale vineyards and fermented in massive steel tanks, using commercial yeast strains engineered for speed, not character. The result is a liquid that technically meets the legal definition of wine, but possesses none of its soul. The nose offers a barely there hint of red fruit, buried under a wave of neutral alcohol. On the palate, it's thin-bodied with a sharp, metallic finish. There is no terroir, no story, just the absolute minimum product that can legally be called wine on a label. After 5 bottles of lies, you deserve some honesty. But honesty doesn't live here. This is the last stop before we find a glimmer of hope. 2 aisles over, past the industrial beverage section, 2 bottles of integrity are waiting for you. They're here to restore everything these imposters have tried to destroy. Number 1, Greenleaf Organics. It stands on the shelf looking elegant, wrapped in an earthy, recycled paper label that suggests an eco-conscious ethos worth celebrating. That green leaf logo and wholesome typography promise an organic integrity that aligns perfectly with modern values. For about $8, it positions itself as the ethical choice for the mindful consumer. The marketing is brilliant. The certification, however, is missing. A closer inspection reveals the truth. The label screams eco, it whispers natural, it shouts bio. But what's missing from the label is any proof of organic certification, specifically the official USDA organic seal. There's no certifying agency listed anywhere. The absence of an inspection number is greenwashing in its purest form, using language associated with nature to imply standards this wine has never met. True organic certification requires 3 consecutive years of verified pesticide-free grape cultivation, annual inspections, and meticulously documented production processes. Genuinely organic bottles proudly display the USDA's green and white seal and certification numbers. This bottle, however, hides behind vague suggestions, betting you won't bother to check the details. When you compare it to a truly certified organic wine at the same price point, the differences stack up fast. An organic wine lists its certifying agency. This one doesn't. An organic wine uses a minimal amount of sulfites. This one contains a whopping 140 milligrams per liter. Organic wine production prohibits the use of synthetic additives. Yet this ingredient list remains suspiciously vague. Still, believe it or not, this is the least dishonest bottle of the Sinister 7. The wine itself is fine, but for about $12, fine without a real certification is still a letdown. But this is where the story pivots. You've suffered through 7 bottles of industrial deception. 7 examples of what cheap wine becomes when profit margins trump integrity. Now comes the discovery that changes everything. On these very same shelves, there exist 2 bottles that prove inexpensive doesn't have to mean dishonest. Natural wine, crafted by real winemakers who respect the grape, the land, and your body. The fakes taught you what to avoid. These 2 will teach you what to look for. Let's dive in. Bottle number 2. The Hollow Tree Farms Riesling appears unannounced in the natural wine section at Trader Joe's. A little corner most shoppers walk right past without a second glance. Its hand-drawn label and the visible sediment at the bottom signal that this is something different long before you've even read a single word. At just $11, it costs less than 4 of the 7 imposters we just examined. What ends up in your glass is real wine, made from grapes with nothing added and nothing taken away. The back label tells an honest story, certified organic by the USDA. It's a hand-harvested Riesling from the Finger Lakes region, fermented with wild native yeasts. 0 added sulfites, completely unfiltered. This is what wine was before the industry took over. The Miller family runs a 74-acre farm in upstate New York, applying biodynamic principles that are forbidden in mass-market production. No synthetic pesticides, no herbicides, no chemical fertilizers. The vines grow slower and produce a smaller yield. The grapes cost more because they're picked by hand, not by machine. Fermentation takes weeks instead of days, as the wild yeasts work at their own natural pace. And that patience translates directly into the flavor. The nose opens up with bright lemon and white flowers. You get a clean mineral note from the limestone-rich soil. On the palate, you get a crisp acidity that's beautifully balanced by ripe stone fruit flavors. The texture feels alive, vibrant, and the finish just goes on and on. Now pour this next to a premium, big brand white wine. The contrast is a masterclass in what we've lost. That mass-produced imposter tastes dead on arrival, filtered, fined, and manipulated until there's nothing left but alcohol and sugar. This, however, tastes like living juice that has made its journey from the vine to the bottle with its soul intact. So why is a store like Trader Joe's even carrying this? Because the demand for natural wine is exploding. Young American consumers want transparency. They want sustainable farming. They want to know the name of the person who made their wine. Stony Ridge Cellars delivers on all three of those promises at a price that puts the fakers to shame. This is what wine is supposed to be when corporate giants don't twist the definition. And that brings us to our number one pick. The Stony Ridge Cellars Zweigelt from the Finger Lakes region completely shatters every preconception you have about what affordable wine can be. When the founder, John Turner, planted his first vines back in 2007, the American wine establishment wrote him off. They said he was too ambitious, too far from the prestigious, well-known regions. But he built his reputation anyway, on an uncompromising commitment to natural winemaking. And every single bottle proves he made the right call. The grapes are hand-picked at peak ripeness. Fermentation is spontaneous, using only native yeast from the vineyard. There are zero additives except for a minimal touch of sulfite at bottling. No filtering, no fining, no manipulation. The result is a wine that explodes with authentic character. Bright cherry and red currant notes lead the way, followed by an earthy complexity that speaks of the soil. Silky tannins and a vibrant acidity create a structure that just begs for food. The finish evolves in the glass, revealing new layers as a little bit of air opens the wine up. It's not static, it's alive. And the accolades followed the quality. It's USDA organic, certified by a leading national body. It scored 92 points from the American Sommelier Association. It took home a gold medal at the prestigious San Francisco Chronicle Wine Competition. These aren't participation trophies. These are trained palates confirming what every bottle delivers. For about $9, you're getting a wine that goes head-to-head with conventional wines costing $16 or more, and it wins every time. There's no caramel coloring to fake maturity, no oak chips to artificially create complexity, just honest grapes, transformed by patient craftsmanship. Why does this matter beyond just the taste? Because every bottle you buy supports sustainable agriculture. Because minimal intervention in the cellar means a minimal impact on the environment. Because when you drink this, you're supporting a winemaker who chose integrity over maximizing profit. Compare this to that Villa Toscana Estates we talked about back in the number 9 spot. That counterfeit bottle cost $5 and was packed with lies about what grapes taste like. This one costs $10 and it delivers the liquid truth. The math is brutal. Authenticity costs exactly twice as much as deception. That's the premium you pay for choosing the real thing over a knockoff. So the next time you reach for a bottle plastered with Italian flags and rustic-looking farm labels, ask yourself one question. Does this bottle deliver more honesty or more marketing? With this Zweigelt, you know the answer. With those others, the answer is almost always no. Avoid those industrial, factory-made cocktails. Instead, buy wine that has the winemaker's name right on the bottle, a clear certification